He pushed me in right away.
Because he saw the same thing that we've seen with Grant. That he's not giving you much. Not giving you much at all. But it's not like they have a ton of options.
Exactly.
I mean,
I like Cornette, but I don't know.
Yeah, you do. Yes, you do. You do know. You do know. You do know.
Remember when we spent time talking about Cornette as if he was actually
He'll be back. He'll be back.
He just gives me here's the thing about Luke Cornette. He just gives me strong preseason vibes. I don't like those vibes. I don't want to have those vibes about a Celtics player in April. It's just not right. It's not right.
You mean a guy that's good enough to make the roster but not quite good enough to play vibes?
That part. Yep.
Okay.
Not. Oh, he's gonna.
Because he's a hell of a shooter. He's a hell of a shooter. I give him that, but every other facet of his game just kind of makes me want to cringe a little bit.
This is what I'm saying about the center position. They're always going to play the matchup game, so it'll be another game where he's the right fit, probably.
As they should, because they don't have one big that you can turn to and say, that's our guy, that's our anchor. They're going to have to keep shuffling the deck at that position.
Yeah.
This is obligatory, so I'm going to say, everybody, once again, we're in the middle of the show. Locker Room app, okay? Again, I know I'm drilling it into you guys, but I just want to remind everybody, if you haven't signed up already, please do. It's been pretty fun and pretty awesome. We continue.
It's really fun.
It's really fun. We continue this conversation, but we hear from you guys. We spend a lot of time. For those who haven't been in the room yet, we spend the majority of it chatting with you. Okay, we do we do a lot of talking. Okay, we're on every night, and we're here, and we're going to talk for about an hour before we even go over to locker room. When we get there, we're interested in hearing from you guys, and we're going to let you kind of dictate the direction of the conversation. So if you haven't already, go download it at your iOS store. Again, it's not available on Android yet, but we are fairly hopeful that's gonna happen soon. Download it. It's free. Set up a profile. Share it. Tweet it with your friends. Let everybody know that you're joining, and then join the chat. Request to speak. We will put you up there. I got to almost everybody last game who requested last post game who requested to speak. If I didn't get to you last time, I'm going to try to get to you this time. I'm keeping tabs. So please jump on there. It's a ton of fun. Guys, let's move on. Any other things we want to talk about for tonight's show?
You know what we haven't said anything really about? Freaking Jayson Tatum.
I was trying to.
I mean, the dude dropped 50.
You don't get the show, Sherrod. We start at Neesmith and work our way up.
My gosh,
Grant.
I mean,
I tried to. I did the Kendrick Perkins thing. We tried, but we moved on. We get distracted easily.
We can talk about.
We climbed the ladder.
Grant.
We spent like 7 minutes on Grant Williams.
It's like shiny object.
When are we gonna get to Jaylen Brown? The people are gonna get angrier and angrier.
I know. Like I said, we're hard to keep focused here. Okay, let's go. Jayson Tatum. Everyone gets 10 seconds. Go. Just kidding.
Oh man.
They're like, let's go.
5 seconds.
No. What did you see, Josue? What was the key?
That third quarter, man, I'm telling you, that superstar approach and no one's gonna stop me attitude. I mean, it resonated throughout TD Garden. People felt it, but it was like, is this gonna be enough? I mean, heading into that fourth quarter, what do you drop? You dropped 17 in the third, and the Celtics are still losing. I mean, you got the idea or the sense that okay, Celtics probably gonna come back in this one, but it was like Timberwolves are still fighting, you know, they're still in it. So again, that superstar approach, getting to the free throw line, he was the only one shooting free throws for the Celtics in that first half. The only one.
But you know why? You know why, Josue? You know why? Because he was going to the freaking rim.
Yeah.
They were
one of the few.
One of the few. Like I think three of the first 4 possessions or 4 of the first 5 possessions, they actually made the ball touch the paint. And it was still a close game at that point. But the fact that they were actually looking to get some type of action going to the rim opens things up as the game progressed. And the player that it opened up things the most for was Tatum. And that's the frustrating thing for me about this team offensively. They have the ability to create more opportunities as the game progresses if they simply attack teams at the rim, open things up for the perimeter guys as the game progresses, and shoot all the wide open threes you want, because you're going to get those as the game progresses if you're attacking the rim. And again, that's my never-ending frustration with this team, is how they can figure out a way to do something well, attacking the rim, and then just say to hell with that. We're just going to jack threes.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't work. Doesn't work.
That's what they were doing all season long, pretty much, or at least it's felt that way, right?
Yeah, but Tatum spent some time going hard to the rim tonight.
And I loved it.
Which I freaking love.
One of those hits, he almost fell off the court. Like the court.
Yeah, when he took the shot to the nose.
Yeah,
NBC showed a stat on that I think it was like 62% of the time he went to the rim last year, and now since March 1st it's up to like 82%. It probably went up again tonight a little bit.
Good.
So I love that. And again, I know we've been around this. We've been talking about this, but this isn't a green teamer mentality of drawing from the positives. They played like ass. They went down 17 points. They flipped the script and took an 11-point lead. So there was a lot of good things.
How you gonna knock 53?
and almost all of it coincided with Tatum absolutely freaking going bananas. So this is what you look. How many times during the year, I mean, even a couple of games ago, we said they get down against Philly and you look around and like, who's going to be the alpha? And again, those are one of the criticisms that the TNT crew put on them. They don't have an alpha. Tatum has to be the alpha. And we know Jaylen is really good, and people can debate who they think is the better player and Tatum's the only guy. I mean, not the only guy, but Tatum's the guy who does this, and the guy who did it a lot last year. And we just haven't seen it as much. But this is what you want. You want to say, guys, I'm just gonna just give me the freaking ball and let's go. And that's what he did. And you need those. We just haven't had it. We haven't had enough of them this year.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then you get one, and it reminds you, okay, yeah, this is. We remember this guy from like right before the bubble. Remember right before the bubble, that tear that he was on? I mean, people were going nuts. This guy's a top 5 player in the NBA. I mean, he's only 19 years old and all this stuff. And
dude, been 19 for like 5 years. Damn.
Yeah, a lot changes in a year.
Right?
A lot changes in a year. And
he's gonna turn 21 soon.
These guys are growing up. I mean, we forget how young they are because they have a big role on this team. They're expected to be leaders, and it's not easy to just jump into that role at that age. I mean, you don't ask that for a lot of the players in the NBA aren't as good as a guy like Tatum is at his age. So they're not asked, they're not looked at the same way and expected the same things from. They've got other guys to sort of fall back on and learn from. Well, now it's like, regardless of whose fault it is, a lot of the veterans on these teams have left. Horford, Kyrie, Hayward, whoever. And now you've got like Tatum and Brown, and still Kemba, but you've got Tatum and Brown sort of put into this spotlight and expected to be, the perfect player, on and off the court, and all things. It's difficult, but for Tatum to go out there and put up 53, shout out to him, because it all came in the second half when they were clawing away at that comeback and in overtime. They didn't, they could have, who knows what could happen in that overtime, but they kept that foot on the gas there and closed it out, which they haven't been able to do so many times this year in the fourth quarter. And they haven't even had that many overtime games this year, but in the fourth quarter, especially, to see them, even though they gave up that lead late, they were able to pull it off in overtime.
True.
Yeah, and not a night where his passing shined, but there were a few plays where great vision from the wing, skip pass to the corners. I think he hit Shemi for one early, and then hit Smart for one later down the stretch. And those were probably only 2 assists all night, but they were great looks. Turnovers, though, still the issue.
It's hard to get on him over the turnovers on a 53-point game.
Right.
But before he lit it up, there was way too much of that sloppy stuff. And it's just him just getting caught with no options, and Jaylen does it a ton too, which is, it's kind of the hero ball mentality, and then realizing, oh, I don't have what I want here. And you're just looking around last second to pass. There's too much of that. Jaylen had 5 turnovers too. Tatum, all of the starters. I think Kemba had 4. They were really, really sloppy and loose with the ball, but they tightened it up some. I mean, I think it was 18 turnovers after 3, and they finished the game with only 20. Right. So 2 more for the entire fourth quarter and overtime. So they definitely tightened things up, but it was freaking grisly. Those first 3 quarters. And again, that's another high turnover game for them. What was it? They weren't
20.
They had another one. Yeah.
Another 20. Yeah. I mean, when they had a dozen at halftime, I'm like, whoa, they're going to hit 20.
18 a dozen at halftime, 18 after 3, but then
that's another thing that started on opening night and just kept running throughout this year. And they were so good at it last year. They were like a top 10 team, I think, in keeping turnovers down. And now they just throw them all over the place. And there's a couple different reasons for that, but it definitely undermines the offense where he struggles.
I think trust is one of those, because they're basically, when you're on the court and you'll only pass to 2 other guys, it limits your options.
Right, exactly. But you know what Brad Stevens teams used to do, and I used to love about those teams, even though they were just like a little bit over 500, but they just fought hard and played great defense. Those games where they would compile 27, 28, 29 assists, shooting close to or over 50%, like that used to be enough, or at least you could see that as like somewhat of a trend. We haven't seen that a lot this year, but when we see it, it's beautiful. I mean, tonight, 32 assists. I mean, like that's something that is an indication of people really sharing the ball, right? When you're flirting with those kind of numbers in the assist category as a team, like that's something I think that is a testament to Brad Stevens' those teams of the past, right? They used to play a whole lot of defense and really trust each other on the offense. And I just think Brad's been trying so hard to get this team to have that same sort of gene moving forward, that same sort of trait.
Defense is a big problem for this team, and we've talked about it ad nauseum this year. And we're going to keep talking about it as we continue out the season into the playoffs, because they just have not shown the ability to galvanize themselves and put together a series of good defensive games. Most of the wins, it feels as though they're not necessarily locking teams down, but they're just finding ways to outscore them. And that's only going to take you so far. You're not going to go deep into the playoffs if you're relying on outscoring teams. The only team that you can look at now that has that kind of as part of their DNA is the Brooklyn Nets. But guess what? Their defense has actually improved significantly from where it was at the start of the season. So even they figured out that as potent as they are offensively, you got to get things done at the defensive.
What do you think it is, Sherrod? Because they have the guys.
Too, right? 3 Hall of Famers over there in Brooklyn. Even for those guys, like they have to play defense.
Yeah. They have the personnel, Sherrod. You look at that starting lineup. I mean, Walker's the weak link, obviously, but he's in the right position. Then you have Rob, Tatum, Smart, Brown, and then other defenders coming off the bench. Like everything they need for the good defense is here.
Well, back up. Who are these defenders you speak of coming off the bench?
Yeah, Shemmy's known as a defender. Like, that should Romeo be fine. Tristan. Yeah, like again, it's not offense with those guys. You look at them, except for Pritchard, and say defense is their thing. Even if it's not great defense, it's.
But see that's the problem. Defense may be their thing, even if it's not great. That's a problem. When you factor that in with the fact that these guys are young, so you don't have the experience, and you have to a certain degree not quite that elite second unit defense that you're accustomed to having. And if your starters are having a little bit of slippage, now all of a sudden you're not a very good team defensively. You're struggling to beat teams night in, night out, teams that you should handily be. If Jayson Tatum goes off for 53 points, you should win that game by double digits. In regulation, I don't care who you're playing. I don't care whether it's the Lakers. I don't care whether you should win that game by double digits, because him having a night that special, if you play solid defense, not exceptional, not great, but solid defense for 4 quarters, you're going to win that game by 10 points.
Sherrod, it's not just Tatum. 54% from the floor, 45% from 3, 94% from the line on 34 free throw attempts.
Think what those splits are for the second half. Oh my Lord.
You should be winning that game by 25, 30 points with those types of offensive numbers. So you're right. This was a defense optional sort of game.
I just feel like that's the kind of season it's been as well, though, right? Like some of these teams, like the offense has just been ridiculous. Like teams scoring at an insane rate, or a rate that we haven't seen, and teams like the Celtics, where if you're in the bottom tier of those defensive statistical categories, like you're putting yourself in a terrible position to win night in and night out. Like what Sherrod said, like Celtics are finding ways. It's like, okay, tonight, guys, we really need this. Tatum, we're gonna need you to have a career night. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to be in a situation where you have to discover new ways to come back, like we've been seeing from the Celtics. A lot of these come from behind wins.
We've said this a few times this year, but as much as they miss Hayward's offense, the defense was a major loss. He was a central, physical,
that was underrated.
Yeah, long guy in that defense from last year, and then Tice, of course, too, which. I know John doesn't want to hear, but he was a good defender in the system.
No. But what you have is that one of the problems you talk about when you've got the right people to play the defense, not necessarily the kind of switchable defense that Brad wants, because with Tice out there, you could do things a little bit differently. But when you've got Rob out there and you've got Kemba out there, it's not quite the type of defense.
Even Thompson, yeah.
Brad, and with Thompson out there too, and when they were running double big, that's not how this defense works. So those are problems, I think, for sure. And that's why it's, the type of defense that they play, I don't know that the personnel necessarily suits it.
Yeah,
it doesn't. It doesn't, because they don't have the elite level of switchability that they've had in the past.
That's the problem.
And it's not that they have bad defenders. I don't think the guys they have are bad. They're just not as good as the ones they've had before. Right. And it magnifies itself the further along we get in the season, because we're hoping that guys will just naturally get better. And I think in some respects they are, but they're not making the kind of growth that this team needs them to make in order to be in that top 4 conversation in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, we did talk about Marcus Smart being a beast tonight. We talked about also that will to win, and again, it was something we saw both on the court and even when he went to the bench. People are hitting shots. He's losing his mind. He was up. Here's Marcus here talking about just his performance and his kind of mindset when the team was down.
Thanks, Brandon. Hi, Marcus. It's just talking about quickly that you said you needed to follow up after the Knicks game. In the third quarter, it seemed to me that you were the one to get the guys going. You were making chemistry plays. You made a couple of shots. What was your mental focus come in the third quarter?
Not to let my team lose.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll wrap it up right.
That's it. Simple as can be. Not to let my team lose. We'll wrap it up right there. Ball game. But that's it. Simple as can be. They
didn't let Bob give the follow up. We gotta go.
Boss Strong's like, really?
Yeah.
We got a lot more Bob than we got Marcus in that soundbite. But again, pretty clean. Pretty clear what the motivation was.
I'm a little let down, John. I thought that clip's I thought you were about to go hard. They're gonna have to
what a clap back.
That was perfect. That was perfect.
Yeah. That's it. Not to let my team lose.
That's what we all saw, and that's what we all saw in that first half. He's like, hell no, I am not letting us go down this way. I mean, listen, he obviously needed his guys. Marcus Smart couldn't do it himself, but he willed them back to life in that second half. Maybe we're giving Brad Stevens credit for whatever he did at halftime, but maybe Marcus Smart lit into them at halftime too, because the way he was playing, certainly he had every right to. And whatever happened, stuck in that second half. So again, I said at the beginning of the show, but all credit to Marcus Smart for doing Marcus Smart things. I mean, that's the Marcus Smart. That's why people have, put Marcus Smart up on the pedestal that he's on for performances like tonight, when he's given those, extra effort plays and the, tenacity he's got out there, the excitement. You just don't see that with a lot of these other guys on the team. And that's why so many fans are drawn to Marcus Smart, because he kind of embodies what, a Boston athlete, Boston fans want to see out of their athletes.
Well, I mean, beyond that, Jimmy, the way Marcus plays, when you start looking at teams that actually make deep playoff runs and win championships are in that conversation, you have a Marcus Smart on your roster. You've got a guy that does a lot of that gritty, grimy, in your face, get dirt under the nails kind of work that doesn't always get appreciated because it's not the sexiest part of the game. It's not necessarily the highlight worthy parts of the game. But when you start breaking down why this team won this game or why they won this series, you find yourself keep coming back to those little hustle plays, knocking down big shots, making a deflection, getting in a guy's face, making sure he gets in the right spot defensively so that he doesn't get his ass beat on a backdoor cut. Little things that I don't think they have done enough of. We saw that and then some from Marcus Smart tonight. And I do think that it was a domino effect. I thought some guys who haven't done a whole lot, frankly, did a little bit more than they normally do. And I think Marcus had a lot to do with that. So the challenge for him and the Celtics is to bottle this shit up and keep it moving and spread it out for the rest of the season.
This is
how you win. This is how you win games.
Especially out west.
This was such a special defensive performance when you think about some of these plays he makes that, frankly, few guys can make. Like a
one
lot
save that he made under the basket that was
on Anthony Edwards, no less.
Yeah,
I mean, he stays with him step for step, off balance.
I mean, again,
grabs that ball. He's the only guy I see do that on a regular basis.
And not only that, I mean, he was on Towns at times. You know, again, this is we always talk about I mean, look, obviously we drew Marcus's ire for talking about him guarding shiftier guards and this and that, but I mean, we're there to heap praise on him when he goes up against Zion, when he goes up against Cat. And there's times when he's literally defending the center position out there, and he's doing it more effectively than guys who are much bigger than him. So that
you got about 2-3 stops on Towns.
Being able to do that, shutting down Towns when nobody else can, is a thing no guards can do. So obviously that's something Marcus does. That not only no one on the roster can do, nobody in the league can do. So yeah, this was like you said, Sherrod.
We need a 5-way apology, Cam.
Well, I mean, it's not though, because we're pretty straight about it. You got good Marcus, you got bad Marcus. When bad Marcus,
no one discredits that, right?
Yeah, when bad Marcus rears his head, he does those things that drive you crazy. When he plays like this, you're like, yes, this is exactly why you have this huge faction of Boston fans who are like, you could never, ever, 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 ever trade him because he's the most integral part of the team. And when they talk about him as the heartbeat in this one, so this was a classic Marcus game.
Piece. I mean, I said that at the time when we were talking about trading him, and Josue was pretty adamant about not moving on from him too. Like he is their by far best defender. Plays every position on that end of the floor. So even with your criticism, John, with the shiftier guards and stuff like that, the other stuff outweighs it so much. And I was looking at the numbers. It's a discernible difference. They're about a 104 defensive rating since he came back. They were up to like 113 and during his absence. The difference is massive before, after, even at the beginning of the year when he was there.
Well, look
like
at who you're replacing. Look at it's also you have to factor in replacement. You know, like they fall off so much when you have to replace a key player because there's nobody. It's the same thing with Kemba. Kemba's imperfect, but we talked about it last game. His value over replacement is so high that they really can't afford to lose him either. How many games in a row did they go in back-to-backs losing when Kemba was out? So it's not just Marcus. Of course, Marcus, they need him for the defense, but they need everybody for something because they just don't have any depth right now. So they miss a key piece, and they lost Rob one game, and we're like, well, they can't win without Rob. We're like, that's where we are with this team,
right? And that's why, again, I think that's why Brad Stevens, you could tell he was so adamant about like, no, I'm not switching this. You guys have to figure this out. If we're gonna go deep into the playoffs, you have to figure out what's wrong against the Timberwolves. Like, as a cohesive unit,
no, you're right.
You guys have to figure out what's going on because if not, then forget it. The rest of the postseason is not even gonna happen if you can't figure this out. You guys, the starting five, this starting lineup, I thought that was a really good call. I really did.
Yeah. I mentioned it briefly, but I want to get into it. So, everyone's got their agendas. Bobby can't wait to yank Rob from the starting lineup and put in Tristan after a couple of performances. And, we've all got our guys, right? So Kemba Walker, I know this seems like I'm setting this up to dog Kemba, but I'm not. He has been shooting not that well lately, but I love the shoot mentality, and I love the fact that he was still taking them late in the game. He made a couple of huge shots late. That being said,
he won overtime, really.
He did
like 6 points through 3 quarters.
Yeah. That being said, this game. Again, you've got Tatum going off and a bunch of things happening and 25 points from 3 players on your team, and you got Kemba limping along with 6. This was a game where, my mentions, all of Celtics Twitter early, and a lot of this chat was
people got at me too about Kemba.
Down on Kemba. So what do you guys think about his performance of late and then tonight? And again, he was huge in the win, but overall, this is one of those we need more from Kemba sort of games, or at least that's how people are going to look at it.
See, here's my thing with this game. I think one of the challenges that Kemba has had since he's been in Boston is that because he's been such an elite scorer for so long, we're entranced by the idea that if he's not scoring, he's not helping. And yet you look at his numbers. He had 9 assists, 7 rebounds from your 5'10" point guard. That's Russell Westbrook-like numbers when you think about it. Right. And obviously he's not that guy. let's not get it twisted, as Russ would tell you. Let's not get it twisted. He's not that guy, but his stats show that he can bring value to the game beyond just being a scorer. I didn't think he shot the ball particularly well, but as you pointed out, he made the shots that they needed when it mattered most. And so when I look at his whole body of work, by no means was it great. I still hate the idea that teams are figuring out ways to pick on him defensively and making the Celtics pay for that. The Celtics haven't figured out how to really do a better job of masking him, kind of the way they did Isaiah Thomas. Yeah. But I will say this, Kemba at least figured out ways to help this team be successful when his shot wasn't going down.
Yep.
Right. No, I think that those 2 3-pointers go such a long way when we're talking about Kemba Walker, because that fourth quarter threat, I mean, we talked about it. Actually, you know what? We did, but it was in the locker room. I remember we talked about it a little bit. Well, I said how key that can be in the playoffs to have someone like that in the fourth quarter when you least expect it, because Kemba, even when Kemba was Kemba, fourth quarter assassin, he had so many games where he would go 2 for 10 for the first 3 quarters and then go off in that fourth quarter when your team needed it most. For the Charlotte Hornets, he was the top option. He was the guy that had to grind his team out of victories. But on this team, it's different. He's got a couple of really good options in Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And that's a great third option to have for an Eastern Conference team competing in the playoffs and someone who's been in the league for 10 years now. Again, it's not ideal. You don't want to see him do this all the time. You don't want to shoot, closer to 30% every night and say, oh, well, he hit that big 3 down the stretch. But it's still comforting to see him not back down from that moment. I don't care if it's the Timberwolves. I don't care what team they're playing against. If it's a 3-point game, tie game, or down by 3, and you're still confident to take that 3-pointer, I mean, that's a huge key addition to have down the stretch for this Celtics team, especially this team that's so thin, in their second unit.
I know, but where people are, again, the comments are $37 million role player. You need more from this guy. I think
he's a closer.
I think you have to. I think everyone has to throw salary out the window because it doesn't change. You have to look at whether Kemba Walker helps you or not, because the money isn't that's the money he makes. Okay. Is he worth it? No. Right. Would you sign him to that deal today? Of course not. But you can't bring that up because he's not going to play like a $37 million a year player. It just isn't going to happen. So you have to determine, is he giving you value or not?
For Boston fans, just look at it as when the Red Sox went out and what was it? Keith Falk gave them all that money. They need a closer. All right, he's your closer. All right, Kemba's your closer. Just enjoy it.
I still think when Fournier comes back, considering running Kemba with that second unit is not the worst option. That's just me. We don't
see Payton though. I don't know. Brad likes Payton, but I don't think he's so confident enough because we didn't see Payton jump off that bench. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too deep into it, but I just think because Payton's just not. He's strictly a secondary point guard. It's tough. I mean, unless you're talking about putting Marcus in there with Fournier.
They're not interchangeable.
They're not. But as I said about Kemba, it doesn't matter that he makes money. Just play him in the role that you want to play him in, and whatever that is what it is. Like, there's no reason to say $37 million role player. If that's the case, that's the case, okay?
Yeah.
So be it.
This happens all the time in the NBA. Like, you think, Sherrod, you probably get some examples, like Joe Johnson, once he got that big contract and started to slip a little bit. And there's been a lot of guys who just don't end up deserving that money anymore, per se. You got to adjust, and even though you're wildly overpaid for a lesser role, what are you going to do? Keep taking 25 shots a night? Yeah.
Well, yeah, but you don't hear anything said when you've got guys who like Donovan Mitchell who burst on the scene and on that rookie scale contract for a couple of years who are clearly outperforming their contract, and you don't hear this outcry of, oh my God, he needs to be paid more money. That money is going to come at some point. To me,
he deserves more.
It always balances out. Guys who are exceptional players are going to be underpaid at the start of their careers, overpaid at the end.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it balances out.
It's nice when they actually make what they deserve to, and that
it almost never happens.
That almost never happens.
Well, you sign Max.
It just drives Celtics fans crazy because it's like, man, Kemba, this guy pretty much fell into the Celtics' lap. He's just under 30. He had enough experience. He's a perennial all-star. And then it's like, well, wait a minute. Now the injuries are starting to stack up. Now you're not seeing him out there. Now the Celtics fans are like, oh, wait, it makes sense. Yeah. You know,
Wow.
he's undersized. He's never been injured. Like, how could the Celtics go out and do this? But, like, you didn't feel that way 2 years ago or last year.
That's to say is there's no reason for anybody to keep harping on the deal. It is what it is. Everybody thought it was a good idea then. It doesn't seem like it now. So at this point, how do you get the most out of Kemba? Is he performing? Is he doing a service for you? And you're right. Whether it's closing,
he was always undersized. It didn't just happen. Like, you know, it's not like adding these new things as to why Kemba needs to go. You know what I mean? Or this was a mistake. It's like, no, it wasn't a mistake.
All right, so I do want to tell people here again, this is the last time I will mention it, but again, as we've been doing, we're going to head over to locker room shortly. Sherrod and I are going to trickle over, and the other guys are going to come. A little while later, they're going to put a bow on this show. We're going to talk about a few more things that we have teed up to talk about on the Celtics postgame overtime show on Locker Room. So if you haven't already, overtime. Download
the after party.
Yeah, the after party. The cool kids go to the after party. Download it on the iOS.
If you can get by Jimmy.
Yeah. Get in the door. Yeah.
Get in the door. Jimmy's tough. Jimmy's tough.
Very strict guest list.
So we are going to head over there in a little bit. We're opening up the room. Someone's going to put the chat, put it in the chat here so you can see the link. When you do go there, make sure you follow each and every one of us on Locker Room. When you're going forward, that's how you're going to be notified when we do go live. I think the link is live now. So people want to start heading over there. We're going to go in a couple of minutes. And so, Sherrod, I do want to tell you again, or anybody who goes on there, if you can't hear, don't just leave. You have to shut the app down, okay? It can be a little wonky at times. If you can't hear it, you have to actually exit it. Swipe it off your screen and reopen the app again. If do it once or twice, I guarantee it will work. But that's what it is. Don't just leave it. Quit the app altogether, restart it, jump on there, and you will be good. Guys, before we leave, I just want to kind of go once around the horn. Anything else we left over from this game? And, what we are going to talk about in Locker Room and what I'm going to tee up for Sherrod here is we've talked a little bit about Karl-Anthony Towns, his value, what type of player he is, whether he would fit here, whether you would want him here over some other current Celtics right now. And you don't have to use too much imagination to figure out who we're talking about. That's something we've discussed. You watch Towns tonight. We got to see it. We're going to have that conversation over on Locker Room, so we are interested in your thoughts. Guys, anything else non-Towns related? We're saving that for the Locker Room crew.
I'm good.
Yeah?
I'm just happy they found a way to win this game. I mean, it wasn't pretty. It was a win, but by no means am I ready to get the duck boats ready and warmed up. Because they did what they're supposed to do. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do when they hit the road and they play better teams on the road. Can they figure out ways to navigate victories in that setting? That's what I'm looking forward to.
Quietest 26 ever tonight from Jaylen Brown. And again, the more you look at those games where he's a sneaky 7 of 10 in that first half and spells the deficit, they were hanging around 12-9 where they should have probably been down 20 for most of that first half. Brown spelled in a quiet, underrated way, and he ended up having a quiet second half deferring to Tatum that ended up working out in their favor. But his first half was quietly important as maybe the biggest reason they didn't just slide completely out of this game, along with Smart's third quarter. He was awesome tonight in a way he probably won't get enough credit for, and he's starting to build. I know he said a couple of days ago that his knee feels almost completely better. He's starting to build a little run here that's similar to his efficiency from early in the season. Not quite that insane mid-range efficiency that we saw then, but he had a couple of nice breakout, pull-up 2, pull-up 3 in transition. His transition game at this point, if this team can get moving a little more, that's why I was screaming at early in this game while Minnesota was sprinting up the floor. Celtics still, clog along at that slow pace that doesn't allow them to get the most out of Brown. And when they speed it up, get stops, he's almost unstoppable, and that was huge for them in that second quarter.
Yeah, my thing. Remember that video 15 years ago, Leave Britney Alone? That kid screaming in the camera, Leave Britney alone. That's what I'm saying about Kemba Walker to John. Leave Kemba alone, okay? Leave him alone.
This is a shout out to you, John. This is
Leave
to you.
Kemba alone.
John is. We're almost to the finish line. I think there's 20 games left. When those finally conclude and Kemba's not in an ambulance or piled up on the ground,
John's
all
staying
these
firm
predictions.
with this. John's not.
No, but every other week, every 2 weeks, John's like, I have a prediction. I think Kemba's going to be out. I think he's going to take a rest. I think he's going to call it a season.
Here, John's like, I'm ready for the Celtics to be like, well, this was the plan all along. Kemba's out for the next 2 weeks. He's still waiting for that to happen. I don't think it happens. But listen, I didn't get a chance to talk about Kemba, but I will say, I mean, I thought Sherrod nailed it on the head with his stat line. I mean, he's finding ways to do other things. I mean, people are so quick to jump on him because they say he doesn't get the Jays going, or, you know, he's a one-dimensional player. Well, he's doing a bunch of different things. You know, the fact that he could grab 7 boards and dish out 9 assists on a night where his shot wasn't falling, you know, the way where it typically might, you know, good on him. You know, and when there's a player going off tonight, like Tatum was in the second half, you kind of got to step back and let him do his thing a little bit. And that's like the mark of a player that understands the situation. You know, if Kemba Walker just was out looking to get his, then we're all going to criticize him tonight for, you know, taking shots that, you know, that Tatum should have been taking or whatnot. So I'm not really worried about Kemba. I like what he brings to the team. I love his leadership. I love his personality. I think that he's a guy that can maybe get some of the guys out of the doldrums when they're in them sometimes. So, you know, good on him. The other thing I'll say about this game, in the last few games, they've won 4 out of 5 now. They're beating teams that they're supposed to beat. They might be making it interesting, but, you know, the only game they've lost to the Sixers, and they lost in a big way. Very interested to see what happens out west, because the mark of a good team is, you know, beating other good teams. It's not beating the bad teams. The teams that they're gonna have to beat, not necessarily out west to get in the playoffs, but that level of competitiveness. So that's, you know, when I'll really start to, you know, get excited for what we're seeing out there.
Before anyone else jumps in, Sherrod, I should let you know, you should have a link already. You can walk into that room right now. Just make sure you can hear it. I'm going to head over there right now, and I'm going to hand it off to the kids. The old guys are going to go over to the new technology, and we're going to talk to you guys on Locker Room. That's right. The boomers are heading out.
We'll still get in the locker room before you guys by the time you figure out how to get in.
That's why we got a head start.
Wait. I gotta restart it again.
I can't hear Sherrod.
I hate you, Jimmy. I hate you.
But I'll ask everybody here. Go ahead.
Not everybody. Let's have a couple people hang around with us.
God, Bobby, where are you going? There's a tweet here that's sent out on Celtics Twitter. Each of you guys retweet it to your followers so everyone will see it. I'm heading out. Sherrod's heading out. We're going to leave it to the Jimmy, Josue, and Bobby show. And we will see you guys on Postgame, of course, on Sunday. But we're heading over to Locker Room now. So anyone who wants to chat with us, head over. Guys, take it away.
Wow. And we lost Bobby?
What is Bobby doing? We need Bobby.
Wait. Now I can't hear Josue because of all this back and forth. Hold on. I got to reset my...
I had... No. Stay, Jimmy.
Yeah, me muted.
I had Josue muted because the noise back there when he wasn't speaking. I'm taking off, guys. We'll see you guys.
All right, JJB's back. Welcome in, guys. John's like,
we're back.
We're back. Here?
I didn't prepare. I'll be honest. I didn't prepare for this segment like you said we were going to.
Oh, what the fuck, Jimmy?
Wow.
Whoa. Josue, why don't you tell us what you got going on over there? You're at the game still. What do you see? Anything going on?
It's JBB. It's unedited, man. You know what they're doing. They're ripping up the court. You know, it's funny. I swear they used to do this a lot.
Too many hockey games
when we were out there, man. I think we used to motivate them, Jimmy. I think us being on the floor, like, yo, I bet we can ruin the report. We get this done quicker. Like, all right, bet.
Oh, it was a race against time for sure.
Yeah, they used to start ripping the court apart.
So we used to start our show on the opposite end of the court of when the Bull Gang would take down the court for the hocky, and we would just watch as the court was disappearing in front of us, and it would be a race. There you go. Yeah. Wow, they got.
It's really bright.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Coming apart quick.
Yeah. No, quick,
they're almost at the logo. They're at the free throw line. One side.
We've had some old videos where like they're going by the camera with like the court and everything like that.
Yeah, you can see the court disappearing in the background as you're talking. Yeah, I remember those days.
Those are the days, man. I wonder if we'll ever get back on the court again. Jeez.
I know, man. Bobby, you made your debut. I remember it was with me. First time you were on the court.
I'll remember that game forever too, because it was an early lesson in Jayson Tatum's career, where Kelly Olynyk honestly took him to school on the defensive end of the floor and scored like 28, which is really funny to look back on.
Backdoor cuts, or the corner 3-pointers. Yeah.
We getting any questions in the chat here before we head over to
let's take some questions.
I got an interesting tweet over here. You guys are ready?
All right, we're ready. We're ready because Bobby's
All
too
right.
picky with the questions. So
It's from Mama Tatum. All right, I'll say this and then you'll get the question ready. All right, Mama Tatum.
actual Mama Tatum.
Actual Mama Tatum. I forgot to mention this earlier. It was about 20 minutes ago.
Oh wow.
All right. Yeah, so this is on Twitter. She goes, "We don't want none of that fake love. Keep the same energy y'all had a few days ago. Y'all know who y'all are. Hashtag always his biggest fan at Jayson Tatum."
A lot of stuff. A lot of people asking about what we're going to talk about on Locker Room.
Bobby didn't even listen to you. Bobby
no,
didn't
I heard. I'm just doing my job over
what
here.
I say to that is,
he's trying to fish that. No, he's too busy trying to fish out a good question because you.
Mom's gonna always have her son's back. So I have no problems with what she said.
I don't have any problem with it.
But
were there people out there really trying to trade Jayson Tatum though? I don't know.
It does probably tell you maybe what Tatum thinks too. Though maybe you get a little peek inside of Tatum's mind when you hear his mom talk.
That's a good fan base is something else. Every question: should we trade Brown? Should we trade Kemba?
Bobby, just put one up.
That's why Mama Tatum said what she said. You see what you guys are doing to Mama Tatum?
Who's trying to trade? No one's. I mean, all right, fine. Gary Tanway might be trying to trade Tatum, but other than that, I don't know anyone else.
No, Bobby Marks. Marks was real low on him. I'd rather trade Tatum than Brown, which I guess there might be a point if you have to trade one of them. But
if you have to, though, I don't
think you have to under any circumstance. And we'll get to that in the locker room. Whatever. I'll throw this up now, and we'll just.
We said this real quick.
For the Android owners out there.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about this on Locker Room, and Jimmy has teased this quite a bit. Like the
Sherrod's the one who teased it first.
Well, he threw it out there as a possibility. Yeah. And you can kind of read between the lines there because he said Beal's perfectly happy in Washington, but I think a marquee player is going to come up this summer, which is interesting because he got his guy there in Russell, but things just have not worked out there in Minnesota. So if Cat becomes available, it'll be enticing. We look at his last 12 games. I didn't loop in tonight, but he was averaging 30 points, 12.4 rebounds, 4.8 assists, shooting like 43% from three. It's just absurd what this guy can do on the offensive end of the floor. And it's not even just posting up every time. You see the high screen action, high post action that he delivers out there. It's just unmatched for a center in the NBA to have the offensive arsenal that he does. But I look at the defense. You're going to be on the court giving up 146 in a game. And they've done this a couple of times this week now. They're like 27th in defense, and he's been there most of this year. He's just not the kind of defensive anchor you want at the center position if you're going to be playing your center 44 minutes. And I don't think the Celtics value that all that much, do they?
Well,
no.
I feel like the Celtics was trying to they're out there to go grab that next Al Horford. I believe that. That's why I can sort of.
Horford was a real deal defender.
Yeah, that's true. I just meant more on the offensive side of things, but
yeah.
You'd
love to have him. It's would you give up Brown?
Exactly. I don't know if the Celtics are willing to do that, especially right now. Or,
I think you gotta. Right now, the answer is probably no. I think when trade talks like that start to come up, usually there's something wrong with your team. You're not looking to blow up a successful Celtics team, but if they struggle to end the year, if they're out in the first round, and there looks like there's a disconnect. That's when these rumors start to creep in, whether you like to hear them or not. And they might just be that. They might just be rumors or like, oh, well, he's available. Maybe he'll fit. You don't hear that when things are going great. That's why this trade deadline was so, aggressive in like the rumors and, maybe this player's available. Maybe this player's on the block or, Danny's on the phone with this team. Like that happens to teams that aren't playing well. And that might be the case this offseason too. If Cat becomes available, I guarantee you Danny Ainge will pick up the phone. Not because he's trying to actively trade Jaylen Brown or Jayson Tatum, but it's his job. It's his job to see what the asking price is and what's out there and what's going on. And if there's a fit, if there's he thinks is a good fit or a good ask price for it, you may consider it. I mean, you can't deny Cat's talent. I think what a lot of people deny is his maybe. Bobby, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a lot of people out there that maybe is it a maturity thing or is it
his makeup?
Yeah. Some people call them out on that.
Maybe that's
not in the gym as much and all that.
Yeah, so maybe that's somebody, the type of player that you wouldn't want to come in here, to sort of right the ship here. I don't know if that's the type of player that would be able to do that, or maybe he just needs a change of scenery because so many players have
No, he does for sure.
gone on to other organizations and they've thrived there. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I mean, it's got to be very tough for him going through. I'm just talking about on the court. Off the court is a completely different story. We know how difficult the last year of his life has been, but on the court, just to struggle the way the team has struggled over the last few seasons, I'm sure he's looking to bring the Timberwolves to the playoffs and go on a run, and it just doesn't seem like that's happening. But anyways, we're gonna talk about that in locker room. If you guys aren't over there, get on over there because I know John and Sherrod are holding it down, at least trying.
I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna pack up my stuff here, and I'm gonna kick it for the Uber ride. All right.
All right.
You guys already know the Brockton vibe, so it's a long ride, right, guys? It's a long ride to Brockton.
You guys just weren't bringing it with the questions here, so I'm challenging you to bring even better ones over to locker room because you're just not cutting it on that. Maybe all the good ones went over to locker room, and we're missing out right now.
What? The good thing about locker room, they can call you out on locker room too. Get on, they can get the microphone and call you out on stuff too, Bob.
So download that app. It'll take 2 seconds. You throw in an email, you throw in a password, and you're in.
Other real quick about locker room. There's a lot of other like celebrities and organizations jumping on. I mean, I jumped on yesterday just to see what's going on. Tackle Fall was on locker room, not in our locker room. We got to figure out why he wasn't in ours. We had the most in another locker room.
We had the most popular locker room debut in history. Fact. And we can't get Taco on? I mean, come on.
I saw Taco
we got to start working on that.
I saw
that's
Bill
a really
Simmons.
Good point.
Bill Simmons was on locker room yesterday too. So people are starting to jump on there.
We had more than Bill, by the way.
We did
almost twice as much.
Not that we're counting, but we did. No big deal.
If we all Android peoples, we'll have a good Saturday. We'll see y'all Sunday. It's a man.
No, I'll say this for the Android people. We have 2 streams. Garden Report stream on anywhere you get your podcast. That'll be this show from here on out. We also have a Celtics post-game show stream. That's going to be our locker room conversation from here on out. So if you're on Android, they're figuring it out quickly, apparently. They're going to get an app over there real soon. But for now, if you want to listen next day, and it's pretty late when we go into the locker room anyway, you'll get the entire stream, all the audio on the Celtics post-game show feed. Just Google that with the top result if you search Celtics post-game show. So go subscribe to that feed. It's different now. We used to put the same thing on both. Now it's this on Garden Report and the other one on Celtics postgame.
Okay. I don't know what any of that means, but I like it. I like it a lot.
Bobby looking out for everyone. That's what's up.
All right.
So
let's do it.
We're going to head over to locker room. Join us over there. We all tweeted out the link if you need it. It's on our Twitter accounts, Jimmy_Toscano. What are you guys' Twitters?
Real Bob Manning and
at Joe_Sway.
All right.
There
you go. We're heading over there.
See you over here on
Taco
Sunday.
Fall might pop in. Who the hell knows?
Sway, people. All right. Not Sway.
3:00 Sunday post game. We're on after that game.